guess. Your money.
Exactly. All right, top 5 interesting parts of the Big Ten TV deal. Number 5, the shorter term. Everybody's learned their lesson from the ACC. Plus, this allows them to go back to market before the SEC again, unless the SEC finds a way to maybe reopen theirs early, which they might. You never know. Just based on everything. So I wonder, if that does happen. But even still, they're going to get 2 TV negotiations in before the SEC gets 1, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty intentional, but yeah, it's not some long 20-year, everybody's held hostage for the next 2 decades type of a deal. There's plenty of flexibility. Speaking of people watching their backs, it's kind of circling around to conspiracy land of the constant question of like, well, what if you're Purdue and you're not really bringing a whole lot to the table? Like, when do we get to the point to where some of the, I don't know if you'd refer to them as like bottom feeders, those who are clearly not making the same amount of impact as Ohio State is and pulling their $100 million weight as much as the Buckeyes are, does that eventually seep into the Big Ten to where, they start to throw some schools to the wayside? I mean, and maybe we'll get a clear picture of that whenever this next TV deal rolls around. Because that could be, in theory, I guess, be one way to increase some revenue to reconfigure the conferences. But, yeah, I mean, I think the shorter length is very notable and plays well into, that period a few years from now when everybody, like right now, will have all their deals kind of coming up at the same time.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you're – I want to know, like, at the end of that SEC deal, as the ACC deal becomes more – realistic that they know it's going to end, which would be 32-33, kind of that if some of those teams like Clemson and FSU and Miami and North Carolina don't get the kind of oomph they need to buy their way out of that for a couple of years. Number 4, NBC's Open Slots. Again, I've said this about 3 or 4 times today, but yes, the NBC has Notre Dame. The NBC has Notre Dame's home games. They don't own Notre Dame in perpetuity in all of their games. So there are going to be open slots on NBC for it's not going to be the Big Ten and it's not going to be Notre Dame. So who does that go to? Well, talking to Bob Thompson earlier today, really the best candidate for that is the Big 12. So there could be 7, 8 or so games that the Big 12 could get on NBC to package with that Big 10 doubleheader. So this is potentially really good news for the Big 12, is that there's another network out there that could throw them some good broadcast windows.
Unless they add more teams.
True.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's ways around those open slots. But yeah, I mean, in theory, and again, I need to read more about like all the details of all this, because saw the initial report and read up on it, but I know in the last 3 hours being out of practice and also hosting, I'm sure there's been some things that are of note regarding all this that have been probably clarified and whatnot, or of interest. But yeah, I mean, there's some tinkering around to do with some of the lineups and NBC, how they, was it complimentary program or shoulder program, what have you? Yeah. I know there's been random reports about like the Big 12 and NBC, and could there be any interest there? I sure hope so for the Big 12's sake, but yeah, many more questions remain as far as how college football is going to be on TV here over the next few years. Yeah.
Number 3, no Apple or Amazon. And that is kind of a surprise, but Peacock, if I'm NBC and I'm really kind of going in for this, I want my streamer involved, the one I'm building and trying to do that. So I think that this shouldn't be as much of a surprise that NBC came to the table with this. And there's going to be a good chunk of stuff, mostly basketball, but some, Peacock exclusive games on the Big Ten that you going to have to sign up for Peacock for and watch if you're a fan of those schools. So, or theoretically you would.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people out there already have that. I'm not a Peacock member as of right now, and I don't know that I will be just to watch the Big Ten. It'd be interesting to see how spread out it is. But then again, a lot of people already have most of the streaming channels, so maybe it doesn't change your viewing all that much. But, I mean, there had to be a know something here. In theory, the Big Ten couldn't have every streaming service and every channel, although it seems like they attempted to pull off something like that and got pretty damn close. But, yeah, Apple's long been rumored to, be involved in potentially kicking the door open to college football. Amazon, I mean, they're a powerhouse, obviously, and I'm not sure what their plans are, but obviously they've gone big into pro sports. So, yeah, there's some room around the streaming giants still available.
Yeah. Number 2, they're going to have a draft for the games. The big games are going to have for lack of a better term, a fantasy draft. I don't know. We asked Bob Thompson about it. He said it's interesting. They kind of have this anyway, but it's not the biggest game's not always going to be on one network. CBS had the right of first refusal on the big SEC game. Now they don't have that. It could be on Fox. It could be on NBC. And so that's kind of interesting that it's not they're not tiered off in the fact that they're going to do that. Plus, they rotate the championship game between them. NBC gets it once, and CBS and Fox get it 3 times each over the 7 years of the deal. So that's kind of interesting, and I wonder if that applies to some other networks as well. But right now, it's it's like Bob told us earlier. Like sometimes Fox gets the first 2 picks, but this is a different thing that's not been in any other TV deal before.
Yeah, I don't even know much about that. I think I missed that part of it, but that's interesting, and I do think there is something similar that's been done along the way. But yeah, that's cool for the Big Ten.
But you also there's no I think the big thing is that the biggest games like Michigan, Ohio State 1 year are going to be on CBS. The next year it might be on NBC or Fox, as opposed to where Alabama and LSU was always going to be on CBS.
Is that so important to people, you think? Like that TV, like that it has to be CBS?
I think it is. I think it is it was for the networks, but
okay,
as far as
I don't care. I don't know about you guys. I don't care where the game is. Like just if it's on Fox, cool. If it's on Big Ten Network, cool. I mean, just point. Where's the game at? Let me go watch it. That's all I care about.
It is for the networks. It's not for the people who as long as you can get the channel. Again, I don't care where it is as long as I can get it, or I can go somewhere and watch it.
Right.
All right.
But for them, it's great.
Yeah. And number 1, the escalator clause. This should absolutely send the Pac-12 and the Big 12, and mostly the Pac-12 right now, into an absolute panic. I would be worried about it. I don't know panic, but I'd be worried about this particular part of it the most.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about panic and all of that. I think this is pretty much what you felt like was probably going to happen. I mean, I don't think that anybody was under the impression that the Big Ten was going to come out with their announcement and they were going to say, here's what it is, $1 billion+, $100 million per school, and no Notre Dame, and that's the end. Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah.
That was never going to happen. So to me, it's a matter of how exclusive really are those escalator clauses, because I'm not going by Twitter alone anymore on anything.
Yeah.
So if you ask Twitter, escalator clauses are part of everything, and it's a big nothing doesn't matter all that much, although it does matter in terms of if there wasn't one, then there would be very little room for expansion. And there's others that are like, that's the key to everything, and it's a major deal. So I don't know where escalator clauses fall as far as normalcy in these types of deals go, but I do know that for what we actually care about, which is the realignment part of things, that does leave that door wide open and unlocked even when it's closed. And, if you're the Big 12 or you're the Pac-12, or I guess those are the main worries right now, because the ACC has their lengthy deal. But, even beyond that, you can't be thinking just in a year-by-year mode at this point. Even the ACC's got to be looking way down the road now and saying, okay, how's this all going to work and what could it look like? But, Pac and Big 12 can't sleep. Without having one eye open here for at least the immediate future. Yeah,
that's absolutely true. And then, again, if you're Oregon and Washington, and you've kind of been given this idea that, if this wouldn't have to be after 7 years, if they just decided any time to join us or to invite us, we could go. I don't know if you're going to ever fully immerse yourself in those negotiations, which is what would make me nervous. I'm George Kliavkoff, knowing that. Because the Big Ten has, and you knew it was going to happen, but the way it looks that it's really, they've left it open-ended, I would wonder if I'm ever really negotiating with all of Oregon and all of Washington, or if I'm just getting half of their thoughts.
Well, Paul, that's the billion-dollar question now. Does this do anything in terms of stabilizing the Pac-12, and to what extent does it stabilize them? We'll know very soon now, because now the Big Ten's done. Thank God. Congratulations to everybody that made it all this way. All of the delays. It's supposed to happen, Labor Day or whatever, and then it was, kick the can down the road because they were drumming up more interest, and then, now then Kevin Warren had everybody under the sun was bidding on it, and they just kept bidding. And then we finally got here, folks. We finally have some clarity on the Big Ten, and there's just as much mystery as ever on where this could eventually lead, even though we do have clarity. So that's fun, and that will certainly keep everybody kicking the tires on trying to assume what the next big wave will be. But certainly the Big Ten did not put the kibosh on that kind of speculation. So good for us, bad for potentially some others in the Big 12 or in the Pac-12. We shall see.
Thanks to Ben Bolch. Thanks to Max Olson. Thanks to Mickey Spagnola. And thanks to Bob Thompson. Thanks to Craig.